It's interesting. This week we're going to focus on one small pasuk that has so many perushim. And I was looking at different perushim. I saw one I never saw before. So I said, we got to do this one. Just giving the intro. It's going to be from the Meshech Chochma, Meir Simcha of Dvinsk, right, who also wrote the Or Sameach. Dvinsk was an interesting town. They had two giants being Rabbonim at the same time. Rav Meir Simcha was the Rav of the Lithuanian Kila in town. The Rogachover, Rabbi Yosef Rosen, was the Rav of the Hasidic group in town, and they had very good relationships. They got along very well. And the Tolner Rebbe told me that the Sefer Meshech Chochma was beloved to the Ger Rebbe to back the Beis Yisrael, that he loved the Sefer, and he used to like to share with other Rebbes. He said, in this Sefer you can find the Hasidic word, even though he wasn't a Chassid. He said you can find, so that was in the Meshech Chochma. He writes concisely. It's a bit hard to understand, so we're going to try to work on this piece that he has. So let's see. The pasuk that has so many perushim is because it's so incongruous. This Parsha, Savo, has the Tochacha, right? The Tochacha goes through this kind of flowchart, meaning built into Am Yisrael's history are corrective measures if we take the wrong path. Okay? This goes back already to the very beginnings of creation. The pasuk in Bereshis, where it says, Ha'aretz ha'isa tohu vavo v'choshech al pnei tehom, right? That the world was this tohu, this upside downness and mixed upness and darkness over the depths. So there Chazal say in the Medrash, tohu, that is Bavel. Vohu is Paras Modai, Persian Media. Choshech is Yavon, is Greece. Tehom, the depths, that's Edom and Romi. That's what's known as the Arba Malchus, the four kingdoms that Am Yisrael have to go into exile with if we have to do something wrong. So the Koshen Tzur Magid has a parish on writings of the Maharal, and in that parish he said, wait a second, we just got started with the universe. What are you talking about? Rome and this, nobody even ate anything from the Eitz Hadas yet. No Chet Egel, no nothing. Right? Why is the Medrash talking about that right away in the very beginning of the thing? He says, because it was built into the world that if Am Yisrael takes the wrong steps and there needs to be a tikkun of Golus, this Golus is already there. It's already built in. It's not a punitive measure that's invented when Am Yisrael does something wrong. It's a pathway, right, that's there if we do something wrong. So the Tochacha describes these things, and unfortunately, people often thought that the horrors described in the Tochacha were some kind of, exaggeration. But if you look at what happened in World War II, and even before World War II, these things have happened in Jewish history. And it goes through the reasons that these punishments come upon Am Yisrael, what type of punishments, and then this pasuk comes in, pasuk Perek Kafches, pasuk Mem Zayin, Tachas asher lo avadato as Hashem Elokecho b'simcha uvetuv levav merov kol. This comes because you didn't serve Hashem, your God, with happiness and with a good heart, merov kol, from so much stuff, from so much, whatever it is. So, endless perushim on this, trying to wrestle with the fact that the question number one is, that's so bad? I mean, we're talking here about them doing Avodah Zarah, about them doing all these things and these terrible punishments. Here, it implies you did the mitzvahs, you didn't do them happy enough. For that we're getting gullus. For that we're getting the suffering. What? Why? Right? Why should it be? And the question of what it means, merov kol, right, from having so much, is very tricky as well. Some say it means that it's because if Hashem gave you so much, and yet you still didn't keep the Torah and keep it happily, He gave you all the conditions to be able to keep Torah happily. Let's say in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, you had ish tachas gafno, ish tachas teinofso. Each person under his grapevine and under his fig tree, things are great, and we still, end up doing it. But here,
Why is it rov kol and not just rov?
That's excellent. That's where we're going to get to the Meshech Chochma. He addresses it. Okay, so here's what the Meshech Chochma says. Now, part of what you find here is that there's different ways to parse the pasuk. Okay, and here he's going to parse it in a way that's a little bit unusual. We tend to associate this with Hasidic drashas, right? But here he does it as well, and it comes out very beautifully. He says like this. Again, let's remember the words. Tachas shelo avadatas Hashem Elokecha b'simcho v'tuv levav merov kol. So he explains like this. He puts like a comma, Tachas shelo avadatas Hashem Elokecha, comma. He says, this exile is going to come upon you because you didn't serve Hashem, your God. Okay, that's very serious. Now it comes to explain why you didn't serve Hashem. Because besimcha uvetuv levav merov kol. Because your picture of happiness and what will give you a good heart was to have rov kol, which means not just everything, but lots of everything. Something which is endless desires for more and more stuff. Okay, so therefore, he says, because your happiness came from this, so to speak, rat race of acquiring more and more things, and that can become almost addictive and all-consuming, right, to have more and to get the latest and the greatest and the new, and why does he have this and I need that? So the energies that you're supposed to use for serving Hashem, you didn't have. You channeled them into this world of Simcha v'tuv levav merov kol. This is the way he explains it. He says, there's a pasuk in Hosea, Va'al tismach Yisrael el gil ka'amim. Am Yisrael says, Hosea, you're not supposed to be happy in the same way that the nations rejoice. He says, in fact, it's supposed to work the opposite for us. Meaning, he says, Am Yisrael are supposed to live bihistapkus. Now, bihistapkus doesn't mean in poverty. Histapkus means in having enough of what you need. Okay, and having enough of what you need. That means you're supposed to be a mensch. You're not supposed to be homeless. You're not all these things. You're supposed to have the things that a person needs for their home. And this, I'll say parenthetically, there's a beautiful piece from the Tel Zerav, Rabbi Yosef Yudalei Bloch. It's a long piece, but very key, explaining that different people need different things from Olam Hazeh in order to be healthy and happy. He says you have to imagine it like a circle. He says, and certain things are necessary for each individual to be a healthy, happy Jew. Now, he says, let's say the Vilna Gaon, he had a very, very small circle of what he needed from Olam Hazeh to be a happy, healthy Jew. Minimal food, minimal living arrangements, minimal clothing, and he was happier and healthier than all of us. I have a much bigger circle. Many things I need to be happy and healthy. Many of them are caffeine-based and other things like that, and that's my bigger circle. Now, for the Vilna Gaon to live in my circle would be a waste. He doesn't need those things. And for me to try to live in the Vilna Gaon circle would be destructive. I'm not built for it. Now again, these circles expand and contract as we go through life. But I'm bringing that here to say histapkus means the things that you need as an individual. Some people need to take hikes in nature. Rabbi Avram ben Arambam writes this in his Sefer Amaspik Lovdei Hashem. Says even the most spiritual people have a need to see beautiful fields and hills and rushing water, right? This is something a person needs. Some people need to build things. Different people, it's really individual for each one. But he says, draw your circle, take the things you need, but don't go running after things that you don't, or just because you hear about them because other people do. That's the picture of histapkus. Histapkus doesn't mean deprivation. Histapkus means maspik, enough for what you need. And he says, therefore, he says, the rov kol, he says, is supposed to come to you from simcha v'tuv lev. In other words, he says, the nations of the world, the path which you took, which was not the right one, was you had simcha v'tuv lev merov kol. The only picture you saw of happiness was by getting more and more stuff, right? And you wanted everything, and you wanted more of it, and it's endless. He says, what's supposed to be happening is that you're supposed to have simcha and tuv lev, and then you feel that you have rov kol. That's what Chazal call Ezu Ashir HaSamech Bechelka. Okay, meaning you look at it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides the things that we have and don't have in life. Right? There are things that each of us have that another person doesn't. It comes from the day we're born. One person has a particular physical strength or a particular physical disability. One person has this type of family, another one has that type of family. There are all sorts of things. A Jew, the idea of Ezu Asher Samech Bechelko means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has designed for you the things that you need for you to fulfill your mission in this world, for you to fulfill your tafkid. And therefore, when I get the things that I need that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me, I have Rov Kol, I have everything, because He's giving me that what I need. Now again, this doesn't mean that a person, right, is lazy and doesn't work to get the things that they need. And your wife says, listen, we need to have a bigger house because we can't do Beseder. So you work on trying to see, can I get a bigger house? Can I take a second mortgage? Can I do all these different things? For sure we do. But all of that is within the normal range, within the means. And then when you have what you have, there's a sense that I have everything. Okay, I'll just return to this question because it really does have a lot to do with the idea of Ezu Asher Samech Bechelko, that it's very, very difficult. Many people emphasize nowadays, it's like a whole movement to keep thanking Hashem for what you have. Right? In other words, thank you Hashem, right, for each and everything that you have. Right? I have shoes to wear. Man, if I didn't have shoes, very uncomfortable. Thank you Hashem for shoes. Thank you Hashem for all these things. But it's very hard, especially if people try to push this on a person who's suffering. Right? In other words, let's imagine someone, he just got fired from his job. So he's sitting there in shock. Right? He doesn't know what he's going to do. Doesn't know how he's going to pay his bills. And you come over, you say, what are you looking down for? Just got fired. But you have legs, don't you? Imagine if you got fired and no legs. That would be really bad. Say, thank you Hashem for legs. It's like, okay, I thank Hashem for legs, but I don't know how I'm going to cover my bills. In other words, how does that work? How does that go together? So here's the mashal that I came up with for it. I think that this helped me. Hopefully it can help some people. It depends if you're in the world as a customer or as an agent. Meaning, let's say I'm a customer, I took a vacation and I rented a luxury suite in the best hotel in the Waldorf Astoria or something in Paris, whatever it is. Okay, the presidential suite. And I come and I put my bags down and I go in to wash up, and the faucet of the sink is like lying on its side and there's an empty pipe there going. I can't wash my hands. So I call down to the manager. He comes up, he says, yeah, can I help you? Yeah, the sink's broken. He says, have you noticed the thick carpets that you have in this room? These are very special carpets. Yeah, lovely, I understand. Sink's broken. He says, look at the view you have. You see all of Paris from your window. I understand. Right now, and these paintings, these are real. Yeah, sink's broken. Meaning, you're right, all those things are wonderful. I paid for a suite and the sink is broken and I'm unhappy. So, in many ways, that's like that. We turn to Hashem. You have legs? Yes, I love the fact that I have legs. Yes, but I got big tzoros. Right? Why should I have big tzoros? That's if you're a customer. But if you view yourself, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I am targeting you for a mission in this world. And for this mission, I'm going to give you the things you need, and I'm not going to give you the things you don't need. In fact, the things that you won't have will be part of how you're targeted toward your mission. So therefore, you understand, you appreciate each thing you have, and even each deprivation, something that you don't have, that means, okay, I'm not supposed to have that because that would take me on the wrong path from my mission, or part of my mission is dealing with this challenge of not having this thing. And then a person can have that sense of Samech Bechelko. This is what I'm supposed to have. And there, the person feels, I have Rov Kol, because I have everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted me to have. Okay, it's a tricky thing to do and to reach, but it's possible. There was a tzaddik here in Yerushalayim. There's one of the most famous families in like Yerushalayim, Mea Shearim kind of area, the Brizel family. There's lots of Brizels. They say if you sneeze in Yerushalayim, you hit either a Brizel or an Eisenbach or something. These are big famous names in Yerushalayim. So It was, I think it was Reb Elazar Brizel, one of the patriarchs of the family. I'd still...
There's a place, Brizel or Brizel, that's on Meir Shrim's...
The bakery, Brizel Bakery. Yeah, that's them. That's them. The family business was a bakery. So as Reb Elazar Brizel, he was once walking down in his old age, walking down the street with somebody, and he pointed to like a shoemaker's store. He said, "That's my shoemaker." And he pointed out, he said, "That's my hardware store." Right? And to this, and somebody said, "Rebbe, he fixes shoes for everybody. The hardware store sells things to everybody." He says, "Why should it bother me that other people also get from it? HaKadosh Baruch Hu provided me with this store. It gives me all my needs. He gives me this, I get from here. There's my makolet. There's a makolet that gives to me." Right? That's a way of looking at this sense of simcha v'tuv levav mirov kol. Right? That each thing that's there, you view it as, I'm tapping into this world of kol, this world of everything, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me from that world of everything the things that I need. And this is what he's saying. If you do that, then you're able to focus on your Avodas Hashem. Okay? Because the constant rat race, I saw a cute bumper sticker once that said, even the rat who wins the race is still a rat. Meaning, you get into this race and to do, and it's impossible. Chazal said, right? Person doesn't die with having even half of the things that he wants in his hands. Okay? Yeshlo money, if a person has 100, rotzim asayim. You want 200. Yeah, so it's always there. Nachon? Right? What between the... Yeah. The rotzim money and the yeshlo money, rotzim asayim. Oh, and he doesn't get the chatzi tavaso biyado. Yeah. Yeah, please.
So there was this Rav that went to a Gvir. The Gvir said, "Wait a minute, I'll be back soon." Comes back, and the Rav's staring into a glass case. And he sees this beautiful cup. Now, he sees this beautiful becher.
Yeah.
And his mirror's behind. So he actually sees two. So what does he want? He thinks he has two.
Yeah.
So he wants 4. Rotza mana.
Right.
Yesh lo mana,
Mana.
rotza matayim. So he sees 2, he wants 4. But he only has 1.
Yafeh. Chatzi tavos, right. He only really has
I
one.
heard that from a hitchhiker once.
Really?
I picked up a hitchhiker after the dot-com burst.
Uh-huh.
The dot-com bubble burst.
Yeah.
And he told me that.
That's that was these companies that made a lot of money very quickly in the internet businesses.
They were running off
Imaginary
money, and then it all burst.
Yeah.
The bubble burst.
Kind of reminds me, there was a story I saw that there was a certain Gvir, wealthy man in Europe, that the yeshivas would turn to when they needed a donation, which was often, and he was wealthy and he would give. Now, in the world of yeshivas and fundraising, people tend to find out who gets what donation, who gets how much. So it turned out that for some reason the Navardic yeshiva, or the Navardic network of yeshivas, right, started by the Alter Navardic of Yosef Yozel, he got a lot more from this man than other people. So there was one Rav from one of the yeshivas who says, I just want to find out why. So he comes to the wealthy man's house, sits down, and he says, "We really appreciate the support you've been giving us. Don't think I'm ungrateful. I would really like to know, why do you give so much more to Navardic than to us?" So the man said, "Let me ask you," he said, "these clothes you're wearing, those are the best clothes you own, right? Those are your Shabbos clothes?" I said, "Well, yeah, to honor you, I wanted to dress more nicely." He says, "I saw when you came into the house, you told my wife how beautiful my children are and complimented them, right? And you came and you told me how much you appreciate my wisdom and things like that." He says, "Between you and me, I know that's because of the money, right? You honor me so much because of my money. You compliment me, you take care so much because of the money. And therefore, when you ask for the money, it's hard for me to give it to you because I realize how much I get from it." Let me tell you what happens when the Alter Navardic comes in. The Alter Navardic comes in, he was not paying much attention to his clothes. He sits down at the table, he says, "It's been a year since I've been here. Have you progressed at all? Have you changed the midah? Have you really learned something more? Has your davening improved?" the clock doesn't move backwards. Life is going. What's going to be with you? He says, once he's finished with me, I just open the safe. I say, take whatever you want, right? In other words, when you put in perspective, so then you're not just getting your simcha from that rov kol. Okay, so he says, this is supposed to be the simcha. Earlier in the Parsha, when we talk about the Bikurim and the Meiser, it says, V'samachta b'chol hatov asher nosan lecha Hashem Elokecha. You should be happy with all the good that Hashem gave you. Meaning, shezeh tzarich lios hasimcha kivin sheHashem nosan lo. That you're happy because you know Hashem gave this to me specifically. V'adai motza chen be'enov v'hogun lefanov. He says, that means this is good. Hashem decided this is good for me to have. He wanted my crops to come out this way. He wanted me to be able to have that house. Then a person can really be besimcha when you have such a thing. Okay? And this is the roots of it. There's a svasemis about the pasuk in Birkas Kohanim. It says, Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the word maso panim, in modern Hebrew as well, it means favoritism. Hashem should favor you. Meaning, Yisa Hashem panav elecha. If we imagine there's a class and I give special treatment to one kid. I look at his face, I remember his father is something or the other, and I favor him. So Chazal ask, they say, wait, Chimaso panim lefonov, is there favoritism by Hashem? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a kel mishpat. He's a God of judgment. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, well, Am Yisrael, really the chiyuv on benching is v'achalto v'savoto uberachto. You eat and you're satisfied and you say Birkas Hamazon. Chazal identified the shiur, the measure for an average person, how much bread to eat to satisfy you. That's a kibetza, right? The size of an egg. But what did my children, Am Yisrael, do? They bench even on a kazayis, right? So therefore, if they do that, how can I not favor them? So it's a very strange thing, right? What's going on? First of all, halachically, how does that work? If the Torah sets a threshold for Birkas Hamazon, which is our one bracha d'oraisa that everybody agrees on, so it says v'savata, and Chazal said you're only saver, you're only satisfied with the kibetza. How is it you can decide to bench on half of that? Right? And if you're not satisfied. And why does Hashem view that as something that should be responded to in kind with this idea of a special favoritism? So the Svasemis explains that when Am Yisrael decide to bench on the kazayas, it's because the satisfaction from food isn't just from the quantity. It's from where it comes and how it's given. The fact that they realize that this piece of bread that they have on their table came to them from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and is given to them by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring them life. And all of these things, they're so happy with it. If you want like a mashal, you see people who are Hasidically challenged, they see Chassid coming back from the tish, holding this little piece of fish, right, to share with his wife and kids or something. What is that? He said, no, the Rebbe gave me this piece of fish. He's like, there's an idea. Again, the world talks about the idea of sentimental value, right? Their suitcase got lost in the airport. They had in there all their old family photographs. When you're fighting with the airline and they're saying, what was in there? How much was it worth? They say, those were priceless photographs. They write down photographs, $10, right? Because there's no measure for that in terms of these things. He says, to Am Yisrael, that's the idea. This is the idea of Shashem Nosan Lo. The fact that Hashem gave this to me, and that's what I realize, so then that gives me that happiness. He says, it's motza chen be'enov. Chen means it's beautiful to me. It finds favor in my eyes because that's what Hashem wanted me to have. That's what He decided to give me. V'al zeh yismach. Okay? Now this is very difficult for us because we do have this sense of wanting rov kol. We feel that everything should be coming to us. We find this a lot in the world of lotteries. Official Schechter said a very clever thing once. He said, statistically, you have more chance of getting struck by lightning than you have chance of winning the lottery. He said, so why is it people don't invest in protective gear to protect them from lightning strikes and they all buy lottery tickets? He says, because we all feel we deserve to win the lottery and we don't think we deserve to get hit by lightning. And it's there. There was years ago, I was a young fellow in Boston, And for whatever reason, I walked past the store and I saw there was the lottery, and it was a jackpot, nothing grandiose like nowadays you have 500 million. It was a nice $10 million. It certainly could have hit the spot, and I got a ticket, and then I went in a few days later to check the numbers. So I looked, it was 6 numbers. I had the first number, no. Second number, okay. I had the third number, that's half of them. I was starting to tremble a bit. I had the fourth number. I was already starting to spend it, right? It was already there. I didn't have the fifth, I didn't have the sixth. But in my mathematically challenged mind, I said, okay, well, that's most of it. So if not 10 million, 6 million maybe, something like that. I go over to the man who's standing at the desk very quietly, that people shouldn't know that I'm a new millionaire. I have 4 out of 6. He says, that's $20, sir. I'm like, what? $20? I have 4 numbers. Shows me a little table there for 4 numbers, $20. I was so angry, right? The whole thing burst. 20, stupid. What can you do with $20? Nothing, right? And I just realized HaKadosh Baruch Hu just gave me $20 like that. And I'm angry, right? Why am I angry? Rav Kol, right? I wanted Rav Kol. So therefore, I couldn't serve Hashem b'simcha v'tuv levav because I wanted the Rav Kol. Okay? It's a tremendous challenge in a world that keeps trying, especially in the world of advertising, keeps trying us to get us to want more and to be less happy with what we have. And the Ezu Asher Samech B'Chelko, I'll just mention in closing, it's a longer discussion, but it's very important. People often ask, does that apply also to things of Ruchnius, spiritual things? People's usual tendency is, okay, no, in the physical things, financial things, be happy with what you have. But in spiritual things, of course not. You should want more and more and more. You should be unhappy with the little bit that you have. So I found in many sources, not just by Hasidim, by Talmidim of the Vilna Gaon and Bali Musar, is that you're supposed to be happy with what you have in Ruchnis as well. Doesn't mean you don't aspire to more. It doesn't mean you don't try to grow. But you should be happy with that thing that you have. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He didn't give me the ability, right, to learn, right, for so many hours a day, or to remember absolutely everything I've learned. Okay, but you do have the ability to learn, right? And each thing that you have, you should be happy with. You can aspire to more. You should aspire to more, but that shouldn't make you unhappy with what you have, because that's also what Hashem gave you, right? That's what He gave you there. And a person's supposed to be able to serve Hashem b'simcha for big or for little, because it's all part of what Hashem wants you to do in the world. And without that fuel, so then you're going to break down. Because that also is there. A person wants Rov Kol in Ruchnius, right? You get big eyes. Say, I want to be a great Makubal. I want to be a great Posek. I want to be all these kind of things. And then you crash. There's a Posek in Mishlei which talks about, it says, Avelis Odom Tesalev Darko, the crookedness of man corrupts his path. Val Hashem Yizaf Apo, and then he gets angry at Hashem. The Vilna Gaon says that's because a person doesn't plan out his path of progress with Yishuv Hadas, with a settled mind, and he tries to jump to things that are not appropriate for him, and then he gets angry at Hashem. Why didn't you help me? Right? He reads about this gadol that slept only 4 hours a day. He says, I'm going to sleep only 4 hours a day. He tries for 2-3 days. He ends up getting sick. He says, Hashem let me down. I was trying to do this good thing. But that wasn't appropriate for you, right? You weren't samech b'chalkecha. You didn't even define the chelik that was there and be thankful for the chelik that you have and focus on doing that. Asher nasan lecha Hashem elokecha. So this pasuk has endless limudim, very, very important stuff. And that's also, as we approach the year, the new year, I saw Tzvi Meir Zilberberg said, as you walk into Rosh Hashanah, it's a very hard avodah, but this is part of the idea of the Malchus, to realize that everything that happened in the past year was what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you. And you should realize that it's L'tova. And when you're asking for the next year, you're asking for Hashem to give me the chelik that's right for me in the overall task of Am Yisrael, to be able to be the maximum me, to do what I'm supposed to, and to be happy with that. And this HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give us. And that's how we can go into Rosh Hashanah with joy, as well as with Emas Adin, the fear and trepidation of the big din that's there.